Hello, welcome to Miniature Realms. My name's Stuart. This video is something slightly different to usual. Yes, I'm still painting miniatures, but this time it's for my good friend Jordan from the Jordan Sorcery YouTube channel. And these have been sculpted by none other than Gary Morley.
Miniature Realms is proudly sponsored by Counter-Attack Bases. They stock a wide range of counters, gaming aids and movement trays for multiple game systems and offer custom items to suit your club, your event or even your podcast or YouTube channel. Check out the link in the video description. If you're a follower or subscriber to the Jordan Sorcery YouTube channel, and if you're a patron member of Jordan Sorcery, no doubt you'll be aware that a few days ago, Jordan launched the Ensorcellry, a range of goods with the Jordan Sorcery branding on, which he's selling to help support the channel and support him in continuing with all his artistic endeavours and research and history into Warhammer and other games of that like. But this isn't really an advert for Jordan's Ensorcellry store. Well, it is a little bit, because he's my friend and I wanted to do well and I wanted to sell loads and loads of this stuff so he can keep making videos. But more importantly, it's about the miniatures that he's selling and the story around them, or at least the story around me painting them. A little over a year ago, Jordan was chatting to me about his plans for this, and he said that he had these miniatures that he was going to be made, and they're going to be sculpted by Gary Morley, which is absolutely fantastic to have a brilliant sculptor like Gary Morley, ex-GW, so many famous miniatures. I thought, what a fantastic opportunity for him. But even more fun, there's a little set of rules that you can play with these miniatures as well, which I thought was really ace. It looks brilliant. All the artwork is by his partner, Becca Moore. And he asked me whether I'd like to paint the miniatures for him, which of course I jumped at the chance. They're really cute. They're really fun miniatures. They're for Jordan and they've been sculpted by Gary Morley. Why wouldn't I do it? So this video is the tale of me painting those miniatures, but mostly told by Jordan as he talks about the miniatures and about how they came to be and tells me how he'd like them painted.
So the four characters are familiars, right? They're essentially my familiars. And I wanted to draw inspirations from some of my favorite games and from some stuff that has meant a lot to the channel as well. So at one point, they were going to be designed around the cats, so around my cats, Martha and Hank. But then they are already both the cats who are in the Jordan Sorcery heraldry. Yes. So it didn't seem quite right to bring them back again for the miniatures. So these were designed by the illustrator, my partner Becca Moore, children's illustrator, who did the heraldry, and then she's designed these four different familiars. One of them is a non-copyright infringing, but inspired by Mickey Mouse when he was the Sorcerer's Apprentice in Fantasia, because of course that is the classic idea of almost an apprentice and a sort of not quite familiar, but on that sort of spectrum, helper, I suppose. So that was that idea, but I wanted him to be more of a sort of ratty kind of character. So he's a sort of rat man version of that. Yeah. And then there is a magical broom, who in this case he's not been brought to life by the apprentice. He's a familiar in his own right. And that's so that's one of the ratty apprentice is called Harther Mank. So that's his name. Obviously, eagle-eared listeners will be able to trace that name back to my two cats.
Yes,
because it's quite obvious. The broom is called, I think, actually, I cannot find my own references here, but I think we ended up calling him Tony in the end.
Okay.
So he's just Tony the Broom, because it just felt appropriate. Gary Morley has described him as being very much like the Pepperami icon. That sort of character that Aid Edmonds used to do. I think the voice for
I
him.
can see that now.
And then we've got Talus the Toad, obviously inspired by the toads of Talisman. So that's why he's called Talus. But he's just a fun guy. I just quite enjoyed the simplicity of that as just a sort of a goofy looking toad guy. And then the final one, inspired very much by Games Workshop familiars, the sort of classic moon-headed character. So this one is Loon, spelled differently to any other version of a similar character. But yes, this sort of very classic kind of styled sort of look. And, all four of them are quite cantankerous sort of characters. So that was the idea for that. Gary took those original sketches that Becca Moore had done, and then he's given it his own character and really brought in that sort of, the classic Gary Morley sort of from his Citadel days as well, where you sort of see that real sort of that sort of dark and kind of funny, humorous kind of character to them.
They're great. They are great.
I think they're really fun. Yeah, I'm really pleased with them. He's done a fantastic job. And then in terms of like color schemes, I think it's going to be relatively. Now I don't know what the right term would be here, but I don't want to say realistic, but almost with the sort of defaults that you would expect. So I think a sort of deep kind of red cloak for half the Manc. Maybe some sort of dark blue hat. That kind of color scheme. I think it's just going to be a sort of brownish kind of fur. Sort of ratty fur. I think the broom is just going to be a pretty traditional broom with a straw broom head.
So not tough sausage coloured then.
No, you're gonna have to try and avoid that. Yeah, that's true. Because it could easily become a bit of a spicy sausage if you're not careful with those shades. And then I think Talus the Toad. I think that can be quite fun because it could be quite green. It could be a very traditional kind of toady sort of colours, but it could also be quite a dark sort of magical blue or something like that. I think that could be quite cool and could work quite well. And then I think Loon, again, any kind of colours really could work because he's just kind of wearing sort of regular outfit. But I think his head being a sort of almost like a vibrant kind of moony sort of, maybe not yellow, but that kind of like a moon-esque. I want to say don't want it to be too pale, but kind of like a moon color. Does that make sense?
I know what you mean. It's a sort of an ivoryish color, but also that has that kind of shine to it, doesn't it? The moon.
Yeah, I suppose that makes more. Yeah, that's probably. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, like a little, because they should all, as much as possible, you kind of want them all to have a certain kind of magical, ethereal kind of feel. Because they are supposed to be sorcerers' familiars or sorcerers' apprentices, and this sort of, and they're all quite cantankerous characters as well. I mean, one thing that we'll be doing with this, so Becca and I have been working on a little game to go with them as well. So that will be just a little download that you get when you pick them up, and it's just going to be the 4 apprentices, familiars. In the Sorcerer's Tower, the Sorcerer has gone out, and the 4 of them are just fighting over the spellbook because they all want to get the spellbook so they can become the new Sorcerer. So it's just kind of a bit of a battle there. Very much in the spirit of the sort of classic barroom brawl kind of games that Games Workshop have done over the years.
Yeah.
Really, really super simple, just D6 based, family friendly kind of bit of silliness. So that's the idea. But very, very excited about these guys.
Painting them. They're going to be good fun to paint. Really good fun to paint.
I'm glad, because I'm really pleased with Gary's work. I think it's really good.
And as you can probably tell, this is not a usual painting tutorial video. I've been holding up the paints that I've been using, but I've not been explaining what I'm doing. And I don't think that really matters. You've watched the channel enough, you'll have seen a lot of the techniques I've used. These are zenithal primed and a lot of contrast for base coating. And then I'm really now in the stages where I'm adding highlights to those miniatures and having lots of fun doing them as well. As I said, they're so characterful. There's a lot of the colours that I'm using to highlight just the frog, which I wet blended together in order to create this nice sort of blue through to the greenish yellow colour. And it's just really, really, really fun to do. And hopefully I'm living up to some of what Jordan had in his mind, and those descriptions that you've just heard. That was the conversation that we had as the brief. That gives you a little bit of a window, I suppose, into how I might work as a commission painter as well. And Jordan and I are friends, and that was prior to us recording a book club session. We're all settling down, ready to record that, and I hit record my end for a short period before we got started. So I had something as a reference, and maybe to put the odd little clip in, but I decided to put it all in, so I thought it was a nice conversation, and it was more entertaining than what I'm delivering right now, which is an awful lot of rabble, no doubt. And as I continue to paint these, I thought I'd talk a little bit about the miniatures themselves. They're very good quality resin casts, and obviously the miniatures themselves I think are very, very cool, and they're very nicely done by Gary Morley, and it was really fun to be able to paint these knowing that only a few people had seen them, and I think I was probably the first person to put paint on them, because if you follow Jordan, you'll know he's not really a painter, so I don't think he was spending a lot of time painting his own miniatures. Maybe I'm wrong now, maybe he has painted a set, but as I've already said, they're lots of fun for those reasons, and they're so characterful. They became really, really easy to paint, and as soon as Jordan started describing the way he wanted them painted, I had these pictures in my head straight away that were very vivid. The sort of the things that he mentioned about the Disney-esque connections and the Pepperami maybe for this chap here, but it was all pretty straightforward. And with all that character in the sculpts themselves, it came into mind straight away how I was going to go about doing it. And if you're regular followers of the channel, I'm using colours that you'll have no doubt seen many times before, and techniques that you've seen many times before. So using that strong zenithal base to work from, the glaze base layers using contrast paints where possible, lots of wet blending of those contrast paints, especially on areas like the frog, and then layering up using standard sort of painting techniques afterwards, and then a lot of glazing back afterwards. So on this piece of wood here, which is the handle of this broom here, not a pepperami at all. And for those of you who don't know what a pepperami is, it's a sort of a cheap sausage in a packet, like a salami, but a processed meat version that's used as a snack. Not the most healthy thing in the world, but that's not really what we're here talking about. But I'm using techniques that you recognise, so using this yellow and this green here to glaze onto the wood afterwards, just in little patches to give that wood a more realistic feel, breaking it up, all the kind of things that you see on the channel. And if you are new to the channel watching this for the first time, maybe it's time to go and check out some of my other painting tutorials, a little advert for myself there and amongst this. I was very conscious of what Jordan said about the magical elements. I wanted little touches throughout, and one example here is the base metal, using this dark blue colour shift paint there from Green Stuff World, and just applying it into the recesses on the metal. It's a kind of sparkly purple, and then a little highlight again afterwards just on the top areas, but it just sits there in the recesses, really, really subtle, something slightly magical and something slightly different about the metallic. I think you can also see the strength of using glazes well over an underpainted miniature, especially when you've built it up to a smooth white like I did here for the moon. I've built it up through colours that are ivory-esque and just adding a little bit of yellow here and there, making sure that the paint is thin. You can see I've got my wet palette there as well as the pot open. You're able to achieve quite a lot. And the same here with this Pilar Glacier. What I'm really doing is adding in the shadows and leaving where the highlights would be, because the miniature's already essentially white. And a little bit of control, just the tiniest bit of paint on the brush, and you can paint in those slightly recessed areas and blend it out, leaving white in those higher areas. You can go back and reinforce them later, and I do. But you'd be surprised what a lovely effect you get already, and you're not just starting with a base blue and completely layering everything up. And it just shows the strength of working with glazes. And I just love painting like this, especially on miniatures like this that are so unique, so characterful, and paint up relatively quickly as well. It's always a pleasure doing something like this where they're pretty much one-offs rather than working through large regiments when you're repeating the same thing over and over again. It's always more enjoyable. And as we move into the final stages of all the miniatures, it's really about making them pop. And for me, that's always about making sure that they contrast really well, especially when you've got sort of cartoon-esque miniatures like this. They benefit from that even more, and that means using fairly vibrant colours. Now this base gold here is quite desaturated, it was really the opposite of that, but when I add the highlights in, it's a very bright gold, and you really get the difference in contrast between that top highlight where the shine is and the darkness of the bottom as well, and it just really works. And also because it's quite a cool colour, that matches well with my idea of a gold at night. It's nice, a cold colour. You don't want the sun shining on it, you've got the moon shining on it, so it's a different kind of light altogether. And I can add warmth in by really boosting the highlights on the yellow here, but there's enough other cold colours that it doesn't really change the overall feel and temperature of the miniature, and it just makes it stand and pop out even more. And then the final touches to this miniature always end up being the highlights on the white, and that just tidies it up, smooths it out, and accentuates the light where you want it to, but also adding back some of that coolness, especially if you worry that you've affected the balance too much with something like the warmer yellow there. I've skipped way too many stages now for this to resemble any kind of painting tutorial. I'm just holding paints up with the camera, as I've already mentioned. So I'm not going to keep you all too much longer. There's 4 different miniatures here that all have their own different paint schemes. I've given you some examples. If anyone is really interested in how I painted each individual miniature, then put something in the comments and I will try and remember what paints I used, or at least give you some advice, especially if you're purchasing your miniatures from Jordan and you like to know what I did. I'm very happy to help out as always with that, and you can always join my Discord as well. It's always a great place to get a little bit of painting advice from not just myself, from the other members of the Discord. It's a super friendly place. And I'm just really glad that I'm able to share this footage with you now and talk about these miniatures. I think it was November 2024 when I painted these, and this footage has been sitting on my hard drive since then, and just been waiting for Jordan, really, and that's not a dig, but waiting for Jordan to have time to get all the stock ready and uploaded for him to be able to open his store, so to speak. So I've been sitting on the footage a little while, and normally when I do a painting tutorial I end up editing it and doing the voiceover as you hear now relatively quickly. Probably the longest ever is a couple of weeks after I finished painting, so I can remember what I was doing or what I was thinking at the time, and I could probably describe most of the things that are going on, but there would have been choices and things that I've made that I've forgotten over time now as well. So it's probably a good thing that this isn't a traditional painting tutorial. So I'll just encourage you to go and check out Jordan Sorcery's YouTube channel and go and check out his store, of which I'll be popping a link in the video description, and supporting him if you're able to, and have a look at these brilliant miniatures. They are really cool, and there's some other cool things on that store as well that I'm tempted to maybe go and pick up something myself. And here they are in all their glory. I hope you like them. Let me know what you think in the comments. My favourite's probably Loon. I just had most fun painting that miniature. Really happy with the way the different tones of white and off-white blue came up. I think it worked quite well. So he's definitely my favourite, and he came out most like what I had in mind at the time. But they're all good. I'm all happy with them all, with the way they came out, and hopefully I've done the sculpts justice. I'm not the best painter in the world. I'm more of an army painter than I am someone doing box art style paint, but hopefully they're good enough and show off these wonderful sculpts well enough, and they're just really good fun, and I hope you can see that. I need to print off the board now and go and try out the game with my sons, because I think they'll really enjoy playing the game and really enjoy playing with these fun little characters here. We offer a lot of family games nights on Saturday nights, and I've got a feeling that this will be something that everyone enjoys.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the video as much as I enjoy painting those miniatures for Jordan. They really are a lot of fun, and there were loads and loads of fun to paint. Hopefully you enjoyed listening to Jordan's thoughts on the process and what he wanted to do with those miniatures, and also his vision about painting them as well. And when I was searching through the footage to put this video together, which I've already mentioned has probably about a year ago now, I found that conversation, which I deliberately recorded to use in this video and forgot I had, and decided to pretty much leave it in its entirety rather than have me wittering along. It was a far better accompaniment to me painting to hear from Jordan about these miniatures himself rather than me just telling you what paints I was using. But hopefully you've gleaned a little bit from the painting side. It's not a normal tutorial, but it was a lot of fun to put together, and hopefully Jordan's minis go very well, and all the other items that he has available on the Ensorcellry. If you check the link out in the video description, and I'll try to remember to put a link in a pinned post as well, a pinned comment as well, so it's easy to find. But do go and check them out and go and watch his launch video for his product range as well. It'd be well worth watching. And if you have enjoyed the video, please do give it a like and drop a comment below to let us know what you think of the miniatures, whether you're going to be picking them up yourselves. Maybe you're going to be looking at some of the other products Jordan has. And if you'd like to support me, then please do check out my Patreon. There's a link in the video description. It really is the very best way to support me and the channel, and I am so grateful for all the support I get from my existing patrons. Please check out the channel sponsor Counterattack Bases as well. But thank you very much for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you soon.